Hey YouTube! So I'm doing deep cleaning during this stay at home time and I found this. This is leftover from a bag I made 8 years ago, I think. So today we're gonna turn this into a polka dots fanny bag. Fanny pack bag. Yay! The outer bag is made from just 4 pieces of fabric, so zigzag all the edges and iron them before you begin. The pattern can be downloaded from my blog. If you like to draft one in your own size, I will cover that towards the end of the video. So we just trace onto the back of the fabric and cut them out 1 centimeters away from the line. If you want the pattern on the sides to match up, you can mark the position of the polka dots on both sides of the pattern and then transfer it onto the back piece. Try to position the back piece so that the polka dot pattern lands on the marking. This is just a special tip to those with minor OCD and likes things to match. So you just cut them 1 centimeter away from the line. That will be your seam allowances. I'm using zipper sewed by the yard, so I cut them a little bit longer. That way I can move the zipper out of the way when I'm sewing. You will also need 2 D-rings and matching size webbing. So put the D-rings in and sew the ends together. I'm also going to add piping. This is optional. I'm using bias tape as the casing. I don't have rope, so I'm using this plastic one instead. Open up the bias tape and bump the edges together and sew on the crease. Then fold the other end of the bias tape to the edges and resew on that same line, and this will form the casing. With the zipper turned upside down, sew yet again on the same line. This time you switch to the zipper foot and you use the zipper teeth as a guide to sew in a straight line. The tricky part of this bag is sewing the piping onto the curved area. If you use rope, it will fill up the casing much better. But since I'm using plastic, I can see the twists in the casing. To attach the other side of the zipper, we will notch the middle of the top piece and also the zipper tape and use that as a guide. I start sewing from the middle part towards the sides to keep everything centered. After I insert the piping, I hand sew to close up the gap between the casing and the fabric piece. This step will also sew the zipper tape down. Before we sew the D-rings, trim off the plastic piping to clear the sewing area. There should be about 2.5 centimeter clearance on both ends for your sewing machine to sew. Position the webbing so that the D-ring is pointing towards the bag. The webbing's edges shouldn't extend beyond the zipper tape that joins the top of the bag. For this end, we will hand sew the ends of the zipper together before attaching the D-ring. So we got this front part done and we're going to attach the back square piece. So unzip the bag halfway so that we can flip it after we sew up the sides. It helps to notch all the midpoints and use that as a guide so that the bag won't turn out crooked. I sew the sides up one at a time, so I start with the bottom and then the top. And when you get to the sides, you just join the top stitch line to the bottom one with one straight stitch line. Okay, so when you look at this piece, all the lines will be in a right angle. So the fanny pack is basically done. Adding a lining will hide all the seams and make the back look neat. So I believe this is nylon. I think this fabric is used to make windbreakers. We will use the same pattern pieces. For the area that's around the zipper, we will use a 2 centimeter seam allowance instead of 1. So that's the only difference when you cut out the pattern. So that means the curvy part of the top piece and also one of the long sides of the front piece will have a 2 centimeter seam allowance. So after you sew up the lining, you flip it to the good side. To attach the lining, flip the outer back inside out and then you slot it into the lining piece. Then you do a double fold here and then you hand sew it onto the zipper tape. So this extra part is for those who want to draft their own fanny pack in this boxy style. Maybe you want a bigger one or a longer one. So what I recommend is to start with the top piece when you're drafting. So once you get that piece to the shape you like, you can use the measurement to make the front and back pieces. So the straight line will be the same width as the back square piece. The curved line is the same measurement as the long side of the rectangle piece. For the height, the back square piece will be a bit longer because the front rectangular piece is attached to the zipper. So to get that length, you add about 2.4 centimeters to cover the zipper height. I hope I'm making sense. And if you make anything, send it to me and let me see what it looks like. So that's the end of the tutorial, and I hope everybody is healthy and well. And thanks for watching.